The best UCF defender all season long has been Mike Ogren, and Ogren is choosing Julian Childs-Walker, another Sky All-American, as his matchup. Norden on the forehand side of the field looking to center it. Having some difficulty. Inside break, flying a little high, but Stewart's there all alone. Carlton close to their end zone now. Stewart pivoting around. He's going to get fouled on that mark as he tries to squeeze that around. The mark, Jeremy Langdon, definitely getting a piece of Stewart. Stewart not really pivoting around too far to try to get that break.
Yeah, he kind of kept his feet planted. He pivots. That time he stepped through and tried to pivot around and got the throw off, but Langdon got an arm on him again. Langdon a little bit incredulous, but Zach and Griffin, I'm pretty sure that was a foul, no question.
Stewart clearly trying to draw the around foul. He had Julian Childs-Walker open in space. Mike Ogren is giving him a lot of respect in the break side right now.
Stewart looked like he was locking in on Childs-Walker.
Just gets
now
checked
he's looking
in
for his dump.
He finds Norden in the center of the field. Norden inside break to Childs-Walker. He's able to catch it, getting it to Jonah Herskew, finding Stewart, sneaking that one around. And Jonah Herskew, in my opinion, is one of the most dangerous players on this Carlton team. He's got very quick releases on his throws, and you'll often see him getting the disc. He's often getting the assist on these points, just outside the end zone and squeezing it in tight corners.
He's just a rock. He doesn't turn the disc over. He takes relatively high percentage looks. He's what Carlton's offense needs.
Chuck, did you do this on purpose?
I did not.
Okay. Just wasn't sure.
So a reminder, that brings us to 1-1 here with Central Florida and cut. Both teams have held. Central Florida's hold was a little bit sloppier with a few turnovers in that point. Carlton working the disc down the field with relative ease. We see Carlton's D-line back on the field now. We've got Simon Montague, Logan Weiss, Will Harold, Hai No, Sam Keller, John Hahn, and John Reynolds.
John Reynolds, one of the few freshmen on this Carlton team, having an impact early. He's been playing a lot of defensive points on their starting line. And Will Harold has been a great puller for them all season. Let's see how he handles this upwind. And he handles it pretty well. This disc flying from right to left from our perspective towards UCF. Best fielding it, pushing it up to Bettis. Bettis marked by Hai No. And Central Florida now on the far sideline. John Hahn on the mark. Swinging it back to Best. And we saw this yesterday as Best trying to find the around. Hits his receiver in space. That's Alex Bullock, I believe, with the disc. Marked by Logan Weiss. Bullock putting it out in space. He's got Best. And Keller unable to make a play on it. Best calling a timeout on the line. And Misha Freistatter is livid.
His teammates clearly upset with him burning a timeout that early as Central Florida looked to have an odd man advantage there in the end zone.
I talked to Coach Andrew Roca yesterday as he was receiving his All-American honors for being Coach of the Year. And he was saying that Central Florida is going for broke in this round. Their goal is to make it to semifinals. They are ready to have every single guy crawling off this field with an injury in order to win this game. So you talked about this yesterday, Ian. Teams with specific goals. Not everyone is here to win a national championship, even though that would obviously be great. Central Florida clearly stating their goal, and they're ready to take down one of the front runners of this tournament in Carleton College.
Quick update from the field next door. Luther has broken upwind and then downwind to go up 3-1 on top-seeded Oregon in another one of the quarterfinals.
And we talked about this for Oregon. Oregon really relying on their mentality and their energy in order to win games. Also, incredibly relying on their athleticism. Luther, this win is playing to their strength. It's allowing Eric Johnson to play a lot of points, and they were able to dominate their game against Colorado yesterday, the hometown favorite. The offense sets, and we have three cutters in the back of the stack. We have Matt Nations, number 17, Matt Carlson, Quint Wharton.
Misha
and we have
Freistetter ISO'd. Simon Montague on the D on Misha Freistetter. Freistetter kind of gets his shoulder under Montague, getting the inside lane, and then when Freistetter planted on the goal line, Montague's claiming that he pushed off with an elbow as Montague ended up on the ground. Not sure if he fell or if it really was a push-off. Zach and Griffin, what did you guys think you saw from your perspective?
I definitely could see why that would be called a foul. It looked like he definitely had his elbow inside of his chest. Whether or not how hard he pushed, that was hard to tell from this.
I agree with the observer who just ruled no foul. There's a bunch of jockeying for position. Simon was playing pretty physically, and it seemed like he just got overpowered by Misha. One of the great things that I see, Simon is definitely a fiery defender. There seems to be a high level of respect between the Central Florida's Misha Freistadter and Simon Montague.
Yep.
And a quick discussion about his injury, Simon Montague. Still clearly favoring his left elbow. He's wearing compression sleeve on it right now. But to be perfectly honest, you would not know that he was hurt. He's been playing incredibly well.
Yep. Thankfully that injury didn't come to his throwing arm.
Oregon has just held immediately to the right of us. That brings it to
3-2 Luther.
And Ian and Griffin, you guys saw how easily Carlton was able to hold going downwind last point. What do you think are Central Florida's keys to slowing down this Carlton offense, especially in this downwind scenario?
I think they need to be willing to swarm any discs that pop up. We saw a few inside breaks there that got slightly away. We saw Nick Stewart able to make the grab. I think there just has to be an overall willingness and awareness of what's going on around them for them to be able to capitalize on an opportunity and get a turn.
Mike Hickson set to pull. I saw a lot of respect from Mike Rogan, giving a lot of respect to Julian Childs Walker on that foreside, really opening up that break set, and I think that's a bad strategy against this Carlton team. Here's Justin Norton with the disc in the center of the field, and UCF is coming with a little bit of a poaching look, and I think this is a really good idea coming out against this Carlton team. Norton with the disc in the center of the field. Here's Ben Caffrey. Back to Norton, and Carlton really likes to move it fast through zone looks, but the hole, they're taking a little bit to find these holes. Herskew with a little give and go. Here's now Herskew in the center of the field. Finding Norton. Carlton's handlers not afraid to get in the cup and pop.
Look for Julian Childs Walker. A little too good to be true. Norton has to pump it a few times.
Norton now with the disc. Popping is Herskew. Herskew fighting for space, hitting David Long through the cup. Now Childs Walker. And UCF defense scrambling to get back into position as they go man. Here's Norton. Norton marked by Matt Reedy. Getting it to Caffrey. Backhand force called. Norton. Here's Caffrey in space. Caffrey marked by Ogren. That's going to leave Childs Walker with a mismatch. Carlton calling for their system as Herskew earns the up line. And you hear most teams calling for end zone offense when they're so close. We hear Carlton calling for system. Ian, you've played against Carlton a few times. What do you think they're referring to by system?
I think it seems like it's a handler-dominated offensive scheme. I think it's going to be, the look is going to be continuous uplines from people cycling in and out of the handler set. I saw 3 upline cuts in a row. I think 2 out of 3 of them worked and ended up giving Carlton the goal. I think that's about all there is to it. Carlton holds, and it's now 2-2.
Luther holds as well. It's now 4-2 Lufta. And what it really seemed in that Colorado game, the Luther takes half 8-7, and then they end up being able to pull going downwind, immediately break downwind, and then they get a consecutive upwind downwind set on breaks. And that was just too much distance for Colorado to handle as they started just not really running an offense. It was more of just Simon Montague trying to send it deep.
Will Harold getting set to pull here again for Carlton.
Handling on the turn, we will see Sam Keller, Lewis Cohen, and either Simon Montague, Logan Weiss, or Will Harold. This Carlton line has a lot of great throwers on it. I expect going upwind we'll see Simon Montague handling, but Will Harold and Logan Weiss are good throwers, absolutely. Here's Best in the center of the field, marked by number 7, Sam Keller. Misha earning the under. Misha trying to dump it. Simon Montague's mark is rotating, allowing Kyle Bettis to get the disc up line. And here we are, as Logan Weiss is playing some deep defense, able to knock it down on Alex Bullock's deep cut.
It looks like when Bettis, I think that was Bettis who released that throw, when he released it, his receiver had steps, but the wind kind of kept it up in the air, enabling the cut defenders to get under it and make a play on it.
Here's Harold on the right side of the field, marked by Matt Nations, getting it up to freshman John Reynolds. Reynolds up to Logan Weiss, and we have freshman Carlton players able to navigate this wind fine. Here's Lewis Cohen on the trap sideline, getting it to Simon Montague just outside the end zone. Simon around to Sam Keller. all the way around to Logan Weiss. Logan looking for the IO, chooses to look it off. There's a flick force and there's a stoppage. And looking at that Kyle Bettis throw, as Oregon holds to the right of us, making a 4-3 Luther lead, that John Bettis throw, the Kyle Bettis throw, I think he was trying to put some touch on it.
Yep.
Because of the fact that he was going downwind, he didn't want to overthrow his receiver.
Yeah,
He knows
the wind's kind of shifting though. It almost at times it feels like a crosswind as well. Because as we're sitting here in the end zone, looking straight upfield, we can feel it coming across our right shoulders to our left.
Oh, and Simon Montague gets the dump, pick and roll move, and tries to throw it upfield to, I believe, John Reynolds.
A tight inside break window.
And Carleton making their dump looks look easy. By going around the back of the handler with the disc, they make it a short pass that allows them to get the disc on the break side. And a lot of teams don't do this, especially in high wind scenarios. Trying to dump it especially with this crosswind, you're going to try to dump it upwinded. You're going to make your life very difficult. And from our perspective, Griffin, did you think, before the observer's rule, did you think that was a foul on Kyle Bettis?
No, I did not think that was a foul. I thought it hit him in the hand, and the hit came after it to me.
Trying to understand the observer's ruling here. He rules that it was a foul, it was a strip.
And Carleton breaks up wind. And they strike first. It is a 3-2 Carleton lead.
It's a huge break for Carleton. We have a couple people sending us questions asking about how strong the wind is, the nature of the wind. We've just kind of talked about it a little bit. When we first sat down, it was a little stronger than it is now. It's kind of fluctuating between, anywhere from 5 and 10 miles an hour up to 15 to 20 miles an hour. It was straight upwind, downwind at the beginning of this game, but now it's starting to shade slightly more to a crosswind, wouldn't you say, Griffin?
I would, and I think from what we've seen, especially with Carlson's inside breaks, it's not enough wind to change the game, but it's definitely enough wind that this disc is going to float, and whoever wants that disc more and goes up and gets it first will come down with it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Zach, I saw you checking out over on the other field the Luther-Oregon game. Any other updates for us?
It looked like Brandon Lafferty was going to be able to reel in a hold for Luther, but he drops it. It appears that the throw was definitely floaty. There was a call on the play, but it seems to be overturned by the observer, and Oregon's going to have a chance to break up wind. And talking about that, with Carleton's ability to play in this wind, most likely Oregon's ability to navigate the wind, and definitely Pittsburgh and Washington and Wisconsin, these four teams have strong upwind offenses.
Looking down the field, we see Carleton trying to stack this D-line a little bit with Nick Stewart getting set to pull. Carleton going to do everything it can to try and earn this downwind break.
I like Nick Stewart
and put Central Florida between a rock and a hard place.
I like Nick Stewart coming out on this defense, as Carleton will most likely come with a strong man defense, but I also like
either strong man or some kind of junk here.
I guarantee this is going to be a zone with Jonah Hurst coming out on the field.
Yep.
Amherst Regional High School graduate. They love their zone defense, having seen Tina Booth run her team. And here is Jonah Hurst on the field with Sam Keller, and they're going to be very powerful on a turn going on this downwind point.
The look is man. It's backhand. I wouldn't be surprised to see some lane poaches from the handler defenders. We got Nick Stewart on Misha Freistetter now.
That allows Simon Montague to go off, I believe, on Alex Bullock. John Best setting it deep. Stewart was poaching off on Misha Freistetter.
I don't know what Stewart was thinking there, because it was a perfect throw. Freistetter had steps, throw to space, one throw hold for UCF. Not exactly what the Carleton defense was looking for there, especially with that stacked line. And it's now 3-3. Carleton still up a break.
I think Carleton was relying on the fact that they don't think UCF has the greatest upwind throws. UCF has struggled in the past with the winds. John Best, earlier in their season, was a very one-dimensional player, really only taking four-side looks. You see there, he steps around, gets a nice backhand out to space for Misha. Misha gets up totally uncontested. John Reynolds trying to stop it, but that throw does not float at all as it goes right into Misha's hands. Reminding you about some other quarterfinals action, as Oregon looks like they have broken upwind on this Luther team, and it is now tied at fours. Actually, no, excuse me. That should be tied at fours, yes.
Yes. Carleton's offense getting set to receive.
I wonder if UCF is going to come with a zone look to try to slow down this Carleton offense, who will most
They've
likely be
done
able to navigate this wind pretty well.
We've seen it before. This pull looks like it's going to go out of bounds. Carlton's offense is going to have plenty of time to set up.
It's also going to reveal UCF's defensive look.
Yep. Carlton looks like they're trying to come out in a vert stack.
With Coach Phil Bowen, an experienced coach like that, Carlton's going to be able to adapt to whatever UCF throws at them. Really interesting. David Long, who's been cutting for Carlton all season long, is being replaced right now on offense. We saw this against Tufts by Peter Schuerman with the number 23 jersey. We have not seen him that much this season. There's been a lot of injuries for Carlton, so we'll see how this develops.
23 earns the under.
This is Schuerman getting the dump to Norden. Norden out to space for Childs Walker. Childs Walker out for Nick Stewart past a bidding Freistatter. Stewart looking to dump it, getting to Norden. Norden marked by Ballantyne. Here's Ogren versus Childs Walker as Norden gets it again. Throwing it up line. Schuerman bobbling it.
Looked like he tried to make a little one-handed grab when he easily could have pancaked it as it came into him. Doinked off his hands out the back of the end zone. It's going to be Central Florida's disc on their own backhand cone.
And with Misha out on the field versus Stewart, you allow Mike Hickson on defense to take Schuerman, and I think Schuerman was a little afraid of the tall and imposing Hickson. Here's Best with the disc going both ways already. He's going to look to send it, and he gets it off. Misha versus Stewart. And Jonah's going to be able to make a play. Misha going down hard, trying to get past Stewart.
Stewart looked like he had position as the disc started to tail inwards. He tried to go through Stewart, it looked like.
This is certainly not going to be a foul call from Freistatter. I've never seen him make a call like this. I definitely think this is going to be an injury call, as he landed very hard, and he has had
Jonah Herskew coming up awkwardly as well.
He's had knee problems all season long. Coach Andrew Roca told me that...
Looks like his face bleeding.
Freistatter suffers from knee bursitis.
Okay.
I believe his left knee, but it does look like his head is being treated by Roca. Misha able to get up. There was contact.
So he's not going to have to take a sub.
But I believe Roca is telling him to take a sub. And we'll see
Kyle Bettis come on.
Captain Kyle Bettis take his place. I definitely think we'll see Misha back on this field. I think Roca is doing this because this is a defensive point. Save Misha for the important offensive points this early in the game especially. So it was, as Ian has told us, it is 5-2 Pittsburgh. 6-2 Pittsburgh as Julian Hausman just scores a goal. And Pittsburgh in clear control of this game, looking to get some revenge. Well, not revenge, but looking to assert their dominance after a close game at the Stanford Invite against Minnesota.
Disc is finally back in here in this Carlton UCF matchup. A reminder, it's still 3-3.
Here's Mike Clark earning the under, dumping it to Norden. Norden looking off Stewart, looking for the inside break. High for Schuerman, who grabs this one. Getting it back to Norden in space. Norden all the way upfield to Stewart.
Dishy to Montague.
On the forehand sideline, Montague getting some contact as UCF defenders switch. Here's now Norden. It's going to look like number 25 for UCF, Jeremy Langdon, who's a solid defender, is going to match up against Montague as Matt Reedy switches off on Nick Stewart, it looks like.
Looks like he's got a little lane poach going on, giving Montague a lot of room for a free reset.
And this is very bad for UCF. Reedy is definitely a handler defender, and he is much slower than Langdon. Stewart is going to be able to get open as Stewart is an incredible athlete. Here's Norden. Inside break to Stewart.
Stewart doesn't look for the continuation. He looks for the dishy right away. Might have missed a window there.
Norton's so good at pivoting, getting the mark to bite on so many looks. As Simon looks inside out, and he hits Mike Clark for the hold-up wins.
And that's the second goal that Montague has thrown with a nice inside-out flick. This one he had a little bit of a larger window to complete it in. Still hits his receiver right in the hands, and that's 4-3 Carlton.
I think what a team like Carlton brings to this is that they're so sound fundamentally from top to bottom. Every single guy that takes the field is going to be able to throw up wind. We saw Lewis Cohen, a freshman, step out in the field. I believe he's a Seattle native. Steps out onto the field and being able to throw in the wind. Every single player is going to be able to do that, and I think because of that, this wind is clearly favoring Carlton. Immediately to our right, we see George Perez with the disc right now for Oregon as they have a chance to get the downwind break. Here is Colin Smith, and we'll stay with this until this next UCF point starts. Topher Davis now at the disc, looking for Hahn, and Sen finds Ian Campbell. Dangerous lefty for Rhino.
He throws and goes.
To Perez,
And
back to Campbell, and he's going to get a ride in the break bucket.
That's a 5-4 lead for Oregon, who was once down to Luther at 1.42. Will Harold getting set to pull for Carleton.
And he's going to have a very good pull going downwind. I wonder if he's going to not...
Is he pulling downwind?
I'm telling you, you're right. It's actually more of a cross right now. And he plans for it perfectly, throwing the inside out that flattens out. Kyle Bettis receives a disc deep in his end zone, maybe a yard at the back line.
His fellow handler.
Getting out to Best, who's marked immediately by high no. Backhand force is called.
His fellow handler told him to let it go. But holy cow.
John Best not contesting it. He's not contesting it. High no gets a stall.
2 yards from the back of his own end zone. That's a UCF turnover. Great mark by High No. Great downfield defense from Carleton. And it's going to be Carleton's disc on UCF's goal line. Simon Montague getting set to pick up.
And I will tell you, Carleton will take their time on this. There's a huge downwind break opportunity.
They compress their vert stack all the way to the back of the end zone. Very tight.
Very smart by this Carleton defensive line.
Logan Weiss looks like he's going to be the ISO. Simon looks to break the mark, swings to High No. Weiss not there for the continuation.
Oh, High No a little nervous with the disc. Hans cut going way too far into the lane. Swinging around to Will Harold.
Will Harold doesn't look for the around continuation, but the disc has to go back to Montague anyways.
And Hans cut goes way too deep onto that side. He clogs any other looks.
Yep. It's going to be coming in on 4 on the backhand sideline. 5 yards outside the end zone, Montague's disc. Another inside flick.
You have to go straight up if you're Freyshotter there. You know Simon's going to look for that. That's the 3rd inside break goal for Simon Montague.
He sets that up well with a nice little shoulder fake to the backhand side, then just cocks his right arm back. Has all kinds of room to make that IO flick work. And that's 5-3 Carleton. They're now up 3 breaks, I believe.
I believe so, as Simon has thrown all 3. And the score, what is the score again?
5-3 Carleton.
Now, Griffin, you're watching this game, you see how UCF is playing. UCF clearly frustrated at their last point. John Best tells Kyle Bettis to let the pull fall, and then eventually himself gets stalled out. If you're Central Florida, if you're their coach, what are you telling their guys to get them back in the game as they will be going downwind offense right now?
I've seen them throw a few hucks coming this way, and they just have not been completed. I think, like Carleton, they need to rein it in, and they need to look for more breaks. Move the disc faster, move the disc closer, and just value it overall.
I certainly agree with that sentiment. We saw a UCF team really dependent on the four-side looks at warm-up, and then at Easterns, without Misha Freysauter for the first day, we saw Andrew Roca change the offensive set as UCF was really working the disc well from side to side. And we were talking about this yesterday. It seems like they have regressed back to their original style of play with Misha Freysauter here for the whole tournament.
If anything, if their looks are being shut down, UCF needs to be playing a field position game and punting the disc at stall 8, not maybe getting a four-side swing off at stall 9.5.
Best getting the disc, back to Nations, back to Best. Freysauter going deep, and Best is going to take that shot.
Montague versus Freysauter.
And, Montague makes a bid, doesn't get a piece of it, but he pressures Freysauter into dropping it. And there is no call.
That is some great intimidation defense, and that's exactly the huck that I was saying I didn't want to see again.
I think Freysauter has that catch 9 out of 10 times, but Simon is a big defender, and he's a very athletic player, and he's known to get that stuff. I think Freysauter got very intimidated, as you said. Stewart getting the under, sending it deep. This one's going to float, but I think he's going to call foul as his throwing motion looked a little interrupted. But Carleton going up. Here's Logan Weiss, unable to catch it. And I'm wrong. Stewart is not going to call foul as Freysauter was on the ground. I don't think it would have been upheld by the observer anyway. John Best picking up the disc. Four-side to Nations. Bullock. All the way around to Best. And he looks break side to Quentin Wharton. Dish to Nations. Inside break to Freysauter. Freysauter holds on to that one. He bobbles it. And he sends it out to space. Freysauter, the thrower, leading Kyle Bettis. And the wind takes that one a little bit for a ride as Kyle Bettis
That's
reads
the
him around.
crosswind for you.
Freistatter showing his skill set. Putting that one up to space, that was a great throw.
Before that throw went up, though, Griffin, I'm sure you'd agree with me here. I really liked what I was seeing from Central Florida's offense. They were swinging the disc, using the width of the field, trying to abuse the break side as much as they could, and that got them a high percentage look.
Oh, definitely. That last throw, I think, was very well timed and would have been well placed if not for that crosswind.
Simon getting the up line, sending it deep. He was in power position. He's going to have Logan Weiss just outside the end zone. A beautiful not really upwind, but a beautiful throw. Here's Stewart now to Lewis Cohen on the forehand side of the field. He pivots around, looks very comfortable with the disc. Simon Montague in the center of the field. They're forcing him backhand. He puts a swill throw out to space, but that's perfect for Nick Stewart. As Simon Montague with another assist. That's his 4th of the game as Carlton breaks up wind again, and they look fully in control of this game.
6-3 Carlton.
And Simon Montague, we got a lot of flack for choosing Julian Childs-Walker over Simon Montague, and he's clearly showing that he is a talented thrower for sure.
As we look over at Luther, Oregon, it looks like Luther has just held to tie the game up, stop the bleeding, and bring it to 5-5. Central Florida appears to have taken a timeout here. Reminder, it's 6-3 Carlton. I believe they've rattled off 3 breaks in a row now after it being tied 3-3.
Taking a look immediately to our right as Oregon is playing Luther, we see Luther coming out with a zone as Oregon has their downwind offense. And I like this idea because Oregon is clearly going to try to rush a throw. Well, they're trying to force Oregon to rush a throw, but Freechild and Topher Davis are navigating this zone look effectively. Here's Wilson Moses on the backhand sideline. Looking to center it, he hits Trevor Smith. Back around to Wilson Moses. Here is now John Block, Oregon's Callahan nominee, and he throws that to space for Wilson Moses. Oregon making it look easy as they hold 6-5. And I think they should continue to throw that zone look. Oregon has a high-speed offense. They like to take a lot of shots, and Luther was probably trying to make them turn it over, trying to make Oregon rely on their athleticism too much. But in this instance, it makes Oregon have more throws than a point by throwing that zone out there. And more than likely, with a guy like John Block on the field, they might get him to take an unnecessary shot and force a turnover.
I agree with you 100%. Just because it doesn't work once, keep throwing it at him, make them prove that they can really navigate it for a few points in a row.
Just to remind you, you were listening in on Skyd Magazine's coverage of this Carleton College versus UCF Dogs of War quarterfinals matchup. My name is Zach Smith. I'm here with Ian Toner and what's your last name, Griffin? I'm sorry?
Griffin Muckley.
Griffin Muckley. And we are bringing you coverage. This is 2012 College Division I Open Nationals, where our coverage is presented by Spin Ultimate and USA Ultimate. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Boulder, Colorado day. It is a little windy, but the weather has been absolutely beautiful these past 2.5 days.
Yeah, yesterday was a bit of a scorcher, working the temps up into the mid to high 80s. This morning a little chillier. I think we're probably in the mid 50s, low 60s area.
And with the wind speeds picking up, this is reminding me a little bit of last October. Maybe not with the rain, obviously, but last October when we were in Sarasota, Florida, that field site really testing the limits of all their players. Boulder elevation obviously playing a factor.
Simon Montague with a big outside in backhand pull that's going to land just out of bounds. Central Florida coming out in a vert stack. Misha Freistatter at the front. Wouldn't be surprised to see him streak deep up the break side.
And we've seen a lot of that first cutter going break side and stepping to the break side and going deep. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think I've ever seen UCF use that look, but maybe they're learning from everyone else. Alex Bulling cutting for the back of the stack. And here we go. Ian Turner calling the play. And Bullock getting out in space. Looking a little like Luther or California offense here.
Yep.
And with a coach like Andrew Roca, UCF getting a little smarter. Here's Best. Nice around forehand to Quentin Wharton on the break side. Up to Misha Freistatter. Freistatter putting a Simon Montague-esque throw out to space. He's got a receiver, and they're going to hold. UCF holding up wind, and that's going to be 6-4. And, Ian, I was very impressed with the UCF offense there, except for that last throw from Misha that was a little nerve-wracking if you're a UCF fan.
Agreed. It's that over-the-stack throw that you and I hate to see at the college level, but Misha proved that he's got the proficiency to pull it off. And, we're talking about what we saw from UCF's offense there. I wasn't sure whether I was watching Texas or Luther or Cal there. I was just very surprised to see UCF going with the Verk stack look and using the width of the field and the break side as much as they could.
We also saw this from teams like Georgia Tech. You saw someone like Jay Clark. When Nick Lenz picked up the disc, you saw Jay Clark either he would take one step to the break side, go deep, and if you didn't think he was going to get it, he would do a jab step and come back underneath for a very large gainer, as Nick Lance would always hit him on the break side. Best showing that he deserves to be considered one of the top handlers in the country, as he's able to throw that nice OI flick out to space.
Around the mark.
Around the mark, and with that crosswind, that has the opportunity to pick up in the wind. That was a great throw.
Absolutely. Definitely a great throw to get the offense moving.
Roca has UCF playing a little smarter, as they are certainly not out of this game right now.
6-4 Carleton.
Coming out on this offensive line, we see number 15, David Long, number 12, Jonah Herskew, number 25, Nick Stewart, number 3, Justin Norton, number 2, Julian Childs Walker, number 48, Ben Caffrey, and number 19, Mike Clark. UCF pull rolls, and Jonah Herskew touches it as it goes out of bounds within the end zone. He's going to have to take it within his own end zone, and he's going to be marked by Misha Freistatter. And this is a very smart move, in my opinion, by the Dogs of War. Norton getting a very swilly up line, hitting Stewart upfield, and now it's problem time for Central Florida. Stewart putting it out to space. He's got Clark, but Ogren's there to make a play on it. Mike Ogren, one of the better deep defenders on this tournament.
That was a truly incredible D. He was coming in at the disc at such an angle that he was going to have to make the play with the disc directly over his head. He wasn't going to be reaching slightly at a almost 45-degree angle. He had to reach up and back over his head to get a hand on that disc, and he got the job done, giving UCF a chance here.
Hickson earning it underneath, sending it deep. He's got Freistatter.
That throw is going to trail out of bounds.
David Long trying to play defense on that. That was certainly a mismatch, but
Freistatter had steps, but Hickson just couldn't account for the crosswind. Throw just got pushed out of bounds way too easily.
And we've seen all season long, we've seen a lot of Nick Stewart poor decisions.
Yes.
And this is an upwind offense. He took a shot. I'm not going to really harp on it too much. He's been pretty consistent, and here's another turnover from Stewart, who's a very mental player.
Yes. He tends to get in his own head easily. We saw that a lot at warm-up.
Here's Best to Hickson upfield. Hickson marked by Ben Caffrey, and that's a mismatch.
Hammer goes up.
To Freistatter versus Stewart. Oh, and Stewart boxes out and makes a play on the hammer, and that's going to get him back in the right mindset. He's going to chill out. That last turn was him just trying to throw a nice upfield throw. Norton.
Good job by Stewart to get the disc back for his team.
Upfield to Clark.
Nice
break to David Long. He's going to have Childs Walker. He looks it off. Looking for Jonah Herskew. Finds him. Still marked by Freistatter. Big break out to space. Stewart's going to be able to run that down. Stays in bounds. Stewart looking upfield.
Freistatter's big mark not appearing to do much to Herskew there.
Up to Childs Walker as they score. And Ian, as you're saying, keep elaborating. I definitely agree with you on this one.
I was a little worried when Herskew was picking up on the cone with Freistatter's big imposing mark, but Herskew maintained his composure, got a nice upline.
Central Florida versus Carleton College quarterfinal. UCF getting set to pull, going upwind. Carleton has been able to break to get a couple upwind, downwind sets. Here's Brawley Adams pulling upwind. Carleton will be going downwind. It's actually more of a crosswind now as Jonah Herskew fields it, getting it to Norton in the center of the field. UCF coming man defense. Mike Clark earning the under. Out to Peter Schuerman. Out to Norton on the backhand side. Forced backhand. Childs Walker cutting. Mark gets a piece of it, but Childs Walker able to run it down, and there's a stoppage. We saw a nice start of that as Stewart cut deep from our perspective, the 3 spot, clearing out space for Mike Clark to come across. And we see Pittsburgh running similar starting sets. Here's Childs Walker swinging around to Herskew in the center of the field. Inside break to Norton. Norton out to space from Mike Clark. He's got steps, and he's going to score. Carleton holding out of half. 9-4.
Carleton's cutters just know instinctively how to make space for each other. It's just second nature to them. I don't know what else to say after that point. They had absolutely no difficulty moving the disc down the field.
Yeah, doing the same thing they were doing in the first half, just mechanical offense that Central Florida doesn't seem to be able to shut down.
All the way on the showcase field, we were just watching. A solid Wisconsin pull sets up a 7-7 tie game as they're able to break. Tufts had that
Wisconsin appeared to come down zone and force a quick turn against Tufts.
Tufts playing a lot of their stars consistently. Wisconsin, a deeper team. It's not really going to take effect, in my opinion, in a zone game as much as a man game would.
Right.
But mental mistakes, you're not able to bring in different guys to get fresh heads. So their stars will have to play consistently the entire game through.
Yes, sir. So that brings us to
9-4 over here. Pittsburgh was able to hold going down, or either hold or break. I didn't know who pulled. But it looks like they're on offense again.
There was a hold, I believe.
It's 9-3 Pittsburgh, and they're close to breaking to make it 10-3. Pittsburgh looking to improve on their early quarterfinals exit last year at the hands of Colorado Monbird, and they are handling Minnesota easily. And it looks like Pittsburgh has just broken. It is now 10-3 as Nick Stewart's pull looks like it's going to land out of bounds. And we talked about this a little bit with teams resting their starters. Pittsburgh had the ability to rest their players against Michigan. I don't know what the final outcome of that game was, but Pittsburgh their stars effectively taking 2 games off, not playing their last round of pool play, and certainly not playing quarterfinals, as they are seemingly fresh against Minnesota, who finished out the day playing 2 hard games.
Carlton comes zone.
Here's Bullock.
Looks like a 3-3-1.
Here's Matt Nations dumping it to Bullock, who's hammering over the top to Bettis on the forehand side.
A reminder of the conditions, it's still a bit of a crosswind more than anything else.
Small dishy play between captains Quentin Wharton and Kyle Bettis as Quentin Wharton's able to break through and get it to Best. It's now Bullock on the sideline to Freistatter. He's trapped. He's able to hammer to Bettis. Reynolds descending, trying to make a play. It doesn't happen. It gets him out of position as Quentin Wharton has the disc out to Jeremy Langton.
Oh my goodness.
And too far for Mike Ogren.
Ogren looked like he was going to be able to reel it in, and then it caught a gust of wind just as he went to attack it with 2 hands. Floated over his hands.
John Reynolds getting lucky there as he descends on Quentin Wharton to make a play, but he doesn't go for it. And Quentin Wharton's able to move it upfield quickly, and UCF almost able to hold going downwind.
Unlucky break there for UCF.
Here's Norton with the disc marked by Langdon. Sam Montague cutting up line and clearing out some space. Clay Dewey Valentine able to finally get it. Here's Montague.
Resets to Norton.
Out to space for Stewart in that pick and roll move. That's textbook Carlton. Stewart sending this one out to space. And that one is outside in, and that picks up in the wind.
If he throws that IO or just a little bit flatter, I think he's going to be able to hit his receiver in stride.
Well, this wind specifically is a total game changer.
Yep.
As if you throw IO or flat in normal boulder conditions, those are going to go too far.
Yep.
So players have to readjust to this wind.
Just to clarify, Stewart was on the flick sideline through an outside-in flick, and the wind is going from that flick sideline over to the opposite backhand sideline. So the wind got under that edge and kind of pushed it just too far to the left for the Carlton receiver.
Best inside break to Bullock past the bidding Stewart. Carlton zone look. The cup has Clay Dewey Valentine, Logan Weiss, and Jonah Herskew. And again, Herskew, Amherst Regional High School graduate, has played a ton of zone in his time. Bringing some of that Boston O.
Nick
Stewart descending for the Callahan.
Holy cow.
And he was baiting that for sure. His best tries to throw it out to space to Bullock in the center of the field. And that's got to be the nails in the coffin already. That's total momentum on Carlton's side. A huge upwind Callahan. Nick Stewart catches it, and he is fired up. Carlton taking a commanding 10-4 lead in this quarterfinal.
That high release backhand just hung a little too much. Nick Stewart coming in from the wing position back into the handler set to sky for the Callahan goal. And that's 10-4 Carlton. Quick update from Wisconsin Tufts. Tufts takes half on serve 8-7. A reminder, you can check that stream just for 99 cents on USA Ultimate and Next Gen Network's websites.
It looks like Oregon was able to hold through this wind. Not sure of the score of that anymore. That might have been the first point. If it is, it would be 9-6 Oregon, but we'll try to get a score update as soon as we can from that. And it looks like Minnesota was able to stop the bleeding and make it 10-4. As the Pittsburgh offensive line turns it over. We're going to stick around for this UCF Carleton game and see if UCF can make a late run, as Minnesota is unable to break. Alex Thorne making sure. Luther turning it close to their own end zone. Oregon with a chance to break. As the pole goes up, Kyle Bettis getting set to receive. Out to John Best. Best marked by Sam Keller. Flick inside break to Freistatter. Freistatter out to Ogren. Out to Bettis. Bettis marked by High No. Backhand force, he's on the backhand sideline. Gets it off to Quentin Wharton. Wharton marked by Ben Caffrey, able to get it off the line to Best in the center of the field.
Looking for the break. Stares it down for about 5 seconds and gets it all the way across the field.
Langdon able to catch it in bounds, centering it back to Best. Best out to Langdon in space. Small ball offense from this UCF team, and Misha Freistatter doinks it. Unlucky.
UCF had been doing a good job working it back and forth the width of the field. Unlucky break there for UCF. Montague picking up the disc. Centers it.
This is Will Harold now with the disc.
Carlton set up in a vert stack.
He's still
with
in
3 handlers out right now.
Still someone in the center of the field, more on his backhand sideline. Here's Keller dishing to Montague. Montague out in space to Logan Weiss. Inside break to Galen Ryan. Floaty for High No, but he's able to make a catch. Dish it to Will Harold. Ooh, and Mike Ogren bidding to make a D. Will Harold kind of drops it with pressure from Mike Ogren.
Does Ogren get a call a foul? There was an injury a few throws ago.
Quentin Wharton
kind of a
down.
lucky break for UCF.
Unlucky break.
Well, that would have been a turnover there, but it looks like UCF's going to get the disc back.
No, Carlton had the disc. High No had just thrown it to space.
It's early.
Unfortunately, Quentin Wharton, one of the captains and one of the stars of this UCF team, coming out with an injury. Oregon has just broken, I believe that's 10-6 Oregon, as they look like they're in control of that game. And it looks like 3 out of the 4 1 seeds are in complete control of their games.
High No's going to maintain possession on the goal line. Dish it to Simon Montague.
Out to space.
Yet another up line to Logan Weiss. If you're going to do something to stop Carleton on the goal line, you might want to think about taking away their up lines from the handler spots.
I think certainly Freistatter was thinking about the inside-out flick. He was definitely forcing backhand. I think he was trusting his defense to not get beaten up line there. I don't think Freistatter did anything wrong in that instance.
No, sir.
That's an 11-4 cut break.
Carleton emphasizing games to 3 here. And their coaches remind them that it's only 2-0 in this game to 3. Phil Bowen wanting to really put the nail in the coffin, stacking this D-line to a certain extent, putting Julian Childs-Walker, who normally only plays offense, out.
Just reading off this line from left to right, we have James Adams, the freshman, coming out for his first point of the game. John Hahn, Julian Childs-Walker, Lewis Cohen, Clay Dewey-Valentine, High No, Will Harold, who's getting set to pull, and John Hahn.
So perhaps my initial estimation was wrong. It's not really stacking the D-line. It's Julian Childs-Walker out there to provide a little bit of veteran guidance and presence with these freshmen out there.
James Adams is certainly a solid player. We saw him play at warm-up, and he's able to handle himself out there. But I certainly agree with your assessment on Julian Childs-Walker. Here's Best now in the center of the field, out to Matt Nations, inside to Hickson. Hickson having no effect so far in this game, marked by the taller James Adams, the 6'2" freshman. And there's a stoppage. Hickson usually stepping out with his large frame, going for the break huck, and usually trying to draw the foul in the process, so it's a free throw.
He's got Jeremy Langdon with a little bit of a mismatch deep, but he isn't pulling the trigger.
I'd be careful if I was Jeremy Langdon. Clay Dewey Valentine, those short in stature, is very fast and can get up very big. And Hickson earning the under. And there's a stoppage.
Game's starting to slow down here.
Another stoppage. Carlton certainly not taking their foot off the gas in this one. And look at this matchup downfield, Ian and Griffin. We have Julian Childs-Walker marking up against Misha Freistadter. Julian listed as 5'10", Freistadter listed as 6'6". See how this one goes down.
Another call. I think it's a violation before the disc was checked back in. I think some people in the handler set started to move too quickly.
Hickson is what you would call, or what Lou Burris would call, a lightning rod. He's certainly one of those guys that can piss off the other team. His nation sends this one deep. He's got Kyle Bettis. Lewis Cohn out of position.
Nice little same throw, same third throw. Just for the win correctly, puts it right into Kyle Bettis' breadbasket. Nice hold there for UCF, bringing it to 11-5. Carleton on top.
And UCF, just as Roka said, they're going to continue to play their starters.
Yeah, I think that might have been the score that they needed to kind of turn some momentum around, although I wouldn't say it was given to them, but Carleton did seem to be a little bit out of position there, so I think Central Florida is going to have to work a little harder, move the disc a little faster if they want to keep this momentum.
Absolutely.
Again, if you're joining us, this is Zach Smith, Griffin Muckley, and Ian Toner, and we're here giving you Skyd Magazine's coverage of the 2012 College Division I Open Nationals, presented by Spin Ultimate and USA Ultimate. This quarterfinal round, we're featuring UCF versus Carleton. The fans decided on Facebook which round we would cover, and this is what they chose.
Thank you very much for interacting with us and giving us your feedback there.
Also going on, we see Oregon and Luther in a tight game. Pittsburgh is pretty high up on Minnesota, and in the closest game of the round, we have Tufts on a 1-point lead up on Wisconsin. As UCF comes zone on this Carleton offensive line, Herskew earning a dump upfield through the cup, calling foul on Jeremy Langdon as he is stopped.
He's a little upset with the double teams that we're seeing from this big UCF Cup, and there might have also been a travel call at the same time. Herskew very upset with the physicality and closeness of this UCF Cup. You've got Jeremy Langdon, Misha Freistadter, Michael Hickson, all over 6 feet in this cup.
You also have Daniel Jacob, and this is the first time we've seen him on the field.
He looks like he's slightly playing the off mark, but he's also drifting back to the foreside at times, just kind of manning the closest person.
Daniel Jacob, mostly a defensive line player, has some big shots regardless of windy conditions, and he typically... This is the first one we've seen him out here as Herskew calling foul, UCF screaming at the observers that it is not a foul. Herskew looks like he's going to appeal to the observer on this one. And we haven't seen Carleton having to use this stop-and-go style of play too much.
Yeah, I wonder if this is a little strategy from UCF trying to get into Carleton's head, get under their skin a little bit to get things riled up and keep this UCF momentum going.
It could be. They're definitely playing a very, very tight cup, pushing the boundaries on that 10-foot limit. Definitely getting into the handlers' heads.
Herskew seeming to respond to that the most out of the three handlers, but he's been touching the disc the most. Ben Caffrey's been totally out of the play so far. And the foul is upheld by the observer. rescue. To Norden, still trapped on that line. Squeaking it up line to Mike Clark, who catches it, laying out, stays in bounds. Fast break for Carleton. Childs Walker to Mike Clark. And Norden to Clark is the thing that starts that one. Io outside in around the cup. Mike Clark diving, towing the line and making the grab. Starts Carleton's fast break offense.
That outside in throw up the line with the crosswind is an incredibly difficult throw. More often than not, you're going to see that blade into the ground before it gets to his receiver. But I believe that was Norden who made that touch throw. Phenomenal grab by Mike Clark to stay in bounds. After that, it was off to the races in the red zone. Quick movement, back and forth. Carleton knows how to take care of business once they're in the red zone. It's now 12-5 cut.
And it's just one more game to three for Carleton in order for them to advance to semifinals. Carleton has made finals the past 4 years, and they would be one step closer from a 5-peat and possible back-to-back national championships, something that they haven't been able to do.
Knowing Phil Bowen and Grant Lindsley, they're definitely not looking that far ahead yet. Focusing on this game to 3, but it's definitely something looming on the horizon.
Pardon me, they've only been to finals 3 times in a row. This would be their 4th. In 2008, we of course saw Wisconsin Hodags taking the national championship against the Florida Gators. Carleton has won national titles in 2009 and in last year, 2011. Wilheld getting set to pull. Is a little bit of a stronger defensive line for Carleton here with Sam Keller, Lewis Cohen, Galen Ryan, John Hahn, Logan Weiss, and Simon Montague. Here's Alex Bullock hitting Kyle Bettis. The backhand sideline. Lewis Cohen forcing backhand, eventually to Quentin Wharton.
Looks more strict.
Wharton out to space, blading. Freischauer going to be unable to run it down, and he's going to make sure that he stops the roll, not giving Carleton any extra yards. He knows how talented of the throwers they have out there, and Simon Montague with no fear running to that disc. He's going to be marked by Freischauer. Montague sending it deep, out in space.
Will Harold gets the
Harold
read.
with the short man tricks, reading it better.
Oh, that wasn't Will Harold, I'm sorry. That was number 28.
Oh, John Hahn reading it better. And he's able to dish it to Logan Weiss for another goal. Carleton breaks 13-5. And if you're curious, if you're tuning in and you're curious why Carleton is so commanding in this game when Central Florida they were able to beat them, I believe, at warm-up, you might be asking yourself, how is this happening? The windy conditions certainly play in Carleton's favor.
Yep.
They have so many guys who are able to throw the disc. There's not that one player that catches the disc that you could really say, oh, he's not a thrower, let's clamp down on the mark and shut down Simon Montague because you know it's going to go to him. All 7 of Carleton's players able to navigate through the wind, some obviously better than others, but UCF clearly outmatched in that respect, and their offense has not been able to click through this tight Carleton defense.
And the other thing is that Carleton knows how to constantly improve throughout the season and find a way to peak at nationals, and that's what you're seeing right now. Just a quick note, we see UCF coach Andrew Roca telling all but Misha Freistetter from the offensive line to take a seat as UCF gets set to receive, and we're going to see a largely defensive personnel-dominated line here going to come out and play offense for the Dogs of War.
Here handling on defense on this line for UCF, we'll see 23, Daniel Jacob, number 7, Matt Reedy, and they might be coming out with a vertical stack, and they do, as Jacob fields the pole up to Reedy. Reedy looking for Ogren. UCF cutters kind of tripping on each other. Here's Jacob breaking inside to Ballantyne. Ballantyne up to Hickson. Hickson out to space for Freischauer, marked by number 10, John Reynolds. Jacob up to number 42, Mike Ogren, who's going to take a shot deep.
A lot of traffic in the area.
And Freischauer is going to be able to catch that one with 2 hands. Oh, actually, it was Freischauer and Hickson both catching it at the same time. Hickson rips it away from Freischauer and spikes it big. He's fired up to be here. 13-6, UCF holds.
Reminder, 13-6 Carleton on top here.
And I believe on the other field we have 14-5 Pittsburgh up big on Minnesota.
So Carleton and Pitt should be relatively well rested, so to speak,
For
as they
their
head into their semifinal matchup.
And that is an exciting semifinals. My favorite rivalry in college ultimate. Those two teams playing very similar styles of play.
Zach, if I'm not mistaken, both of the open semifinals are going to be streamed.
And
through
you
NextGen.
are absolutely correct. They're going to be streamed on NextGen. I don't know if both are going to be streamed on Facebook. I think the later matchups will be on Facebook,
Okay.
complimentary of CBS. But I know that all of them will be on NextGen Network. I encourage you to tune into them for sure.
We've got one open semifinal starting right away at 10:45, and the other one coming later in the afternoon at 3:30.
And a huge UCF pole going way out of bounds as they try to get distance, but end up pushing it too far out the sideline. And Luther's sideline seems a little excited on Oregon, but that looked like their defensive line was out there. So we'll try to get a score update for you as soon as possible. Norden with the disc at the brick mark. Up to Nick Stewart. That one floats a little high, but Schurman laying out and playing some heads-up offense. Schurman looking to dump it. Finds Norden in the center of the field. High release backhand. And the UCF defender, Mike Ogren, making a play on it.
Two throws that have gotten away from Justin Norden.
Here's Quentin Warden out to space for Freistatter. And he's got Ogren deep. He's going to decide to look him off. Getting it around to Hickson. Hickson, center of the field. All the way to Bettis in the forehand sideline. Ballantyne getting open in space on Norden. Looking off Wharton.
Freistatter makes a check cut.
Ballantyne getting stalled out by Justin Norden.
It's a coverage sack, if you will. He had absolutely nothing downfield.
Norden hucking it out to space. You don't see this very often, but he's got Stewart with steps. If this could stay in bounds, laying out his Nick Stewart.
Incredible bid from Nick Stewart.
And that is not good for Carlton as he lands very awkwardly on his left shoulder.
Phil Bowen sprints across the field immediately to attend to him.
I was talking to Nick Stewart earlier in this season. He was saying how he has not been able to play a full season in college due to injuries. And this would be a huge loss for this Carlton offensive line.
You gotta wonder, obviously hindsight is 20/20, but you gotta wonder if it was worth pulling the trigger on that bid with Carlton being up 13-6.
I mean, your adrenaline is pumping. It's quarterfinals of nationals.
Yep,
You're finally here
I'm pretty
playing.
sure I would have done the same exact thing.
I would have certainly gone for it. I wouldn't have got nearly as high as Stewart had, but I would have looked very pathetic, which would have been funny at least. And hopefully Stewart looks like he's getting up. And he's shaking up, but it doesn't seem like he's favoring either of his arms. Actually, he might be favoring his right arm as there's a golf cart here to take him. And hopefully he'll be there to play in the semifinals.
Not sure whether or not that matchup's going to be at 10:45 or 3:30.
And unfortunately, the program does not tell us.
Just to be determined,
It's
correct?
to be determined, so we'll try to find that out as soon as possible for you. Again, thank you for tuning into this quarterfinals coverage. My name is Zach Smith, and I'm with Ian Toner and Griffin Muckley. Also with Chuck Cleary, who's our cameraman right now. As UCF is down big, 13-6 against Carleton, and they'll pick up with a chance to break. Here's Freistatter, marked by Montague.
The in-cut completely behind Mike Hickson. Jeremy Norden picking up.
Around to Ben Caffrey. Caffrey out to space for Schurman on the forehand sideline. Marked straight up by Ballantyne. Able to get the swing off to Caffrey, who's taking the center handler role right now. Out to space for Childs Walker. Still not in the end zone. Out to Schurman. Sliding grab. Ruled in. But there's a pick call.
Carlton's moved it to the from one sideline to the opposite sideline and back again in just this short 30-yard field they've been working with. That's how you score.
Disc back in Childs Walker's hands. He's looking to get rid of it. High stall situation. Out to space. Norden toes the line, stays in the end zone, and Carleton able to hold to make it 14 to 6 in their favor. The Pittsburgh-Minnesota game has just ended. Final score looks like 15 to 6. It's very hard to see from this, but for sure Pittsburgh has just won. And of course, when this game is over, if the Oregon-Luther game is not over, we will, of course, take a few steps to our right and cover the end of that game for you.
Andrew Roca taking a timeout for Central Florida, trying to get a little bit of inspiration for his team. Backs are up against the wall here, down 14 to 6.
So what do you think Central Florida talked about in a huddle in this situation?
I think they talked about pride. You're never out of a game until it's over, but sometimes it's hard to see that. And yeah, 14-6 is a big deficit, but you got to play for your pride right now. You got to make sure that every time you step in the field, you're battling for that one single point. Don't worry about the deficit right now. Start getting points back, and you never know. If you get 3 or 4, you're going to start feeling close in this game. We've seen comebacks like this. 2008 semifinals of regionals. We saw Iowa put 8 straight in a row on Wisconsin in that stacked year for Wisco, as they were able to tie the game up and force a universe point. Wisconsin ended up winning that game, but 8 straight breaks.
Do you guys know the tough score?
No.
It's 10s, game to 12.
10-10, Tufts in Wisconsin, game to 12. You have to tune into that next-gen coverage. You have to see the end of that game. And I'd be a little worried if I was Wisconsin right now. Tufts very familiar with universe point games.
They just know how to get it done in those situations.
Bettis out to Reedy. Quentin Wharton wide open in space, and he gets the disc.
Looks like Carlton's trying to run a force middle.
Hickson putting it out. Clay Dewey Valentine laying out for the D. And he's able to make something happen.
14-8 blowout in Eagles' favor.
Oregon up 14-8 against Luther.
Yo, I'm going to go watch that game. I'll tweet.
Yeah, that's fine. Please follow Skyd_James Lepp. Or J Lepp. I think it's James Lepp. For
If you're
score
not already
updates.
watching the stream. Carlton working in their own red zone. Clay Dewey Valentine resets to Simon Montague. Looking downfield with a few shoulder fakes.
Yep, Logan Weiss now with the disc to Simon Montague. And he's going to take a shot deep. He's got Clay Dewey Valentine in space, and that's going to be too far for him. Carlton trying to finish it off, but they have legs. Clay Dewey Valentine with his hands on his head, but he will have the legs to play defense.
A big thank you to Melissa Caffrey, who just tweeted at Zach and myself. We're happy to bring you guys as much coverage as you can. We thank you for the support.
Reedy to Bettis. Inside break to Hickson. Hickson looks like he's about to jack it. The wind's picking up. This is becoming more of a diagonal wind.
Yep.
Here's Valentine. Valentine, who just got stalled out recently. Looks inside. Logan Weiss with the catch block D. And Quinn Wharton calling
sure
foul.
What Quinn Wharton is calling foul on.
Quinn
Wharton
Wharton
laid out. Disc was behind him. Logan Weiss was right there to pancake catch the D. It looks like Tufts has just turned the disc against Wisconsin. Still currently 10-10. Wisconsin working from their own end zone.
going upwind. Actually, it's still crosswind. It's so variable right now.
Back to this Carleton UCF matchup. Carleton's up 14-6. And UCF very upset with that with the foul call being overturned. Logan Weiss is going to have the disc at the attacking brick mark.
Finds Simon Montague in the center of the field. And a biggest call before Simon Montague could hit John Hahn on the break side. We have Hickson on Montague.
Good.
Simon Montague looking break. He gets the high release backhand.
Back to Montague, a little farther back here. High release break that Ballantyne's able to eat up with no problem. That was a very poor decision by Montague.
I don't think he was aware that Ballantyne was on the break side, poaching off his man.
Well, as Hahn was defending against Ballantyne, Hahn, he was there. Simon had just got the jump from Hahn. Looking all the way to our left, Wisconsin has just scored to make it 11-10 on Tufts.
11-10 Wisconsin, game to 12. And Tufts is going to be receiving with the wind slightly in their face, slightly crosswind. Back to Carleton UCF. A reminder, it's 14-6 Carleton. Bettis with the disc. Resets to Ballantyne. Wants to break to Hickson, but can't get it off. Floats it up to Bettis.
John Hahn laying out on Mike Ogren under, doesn't get it.
All the way around. Quinn Wharton lays out to make the possession-saving grab.
Back to Reedy in the center of the field. Reedy marked by Will Harold. Back to Kyle Bettis. We have Sam Keller on the mark. Keller's been quiet on defense, playing some shutdown. This is Hickson earning the under on John Hahn, and that's a pretty big matchup.
UCF working just past midfield now.
Excuse me, pretty big mismatch. Here's Bettis, UCF being patient. Luther just scored, I believe it's 14-9 Oregon. Hickson, pivoting, looking for an open look. No one's moving for him. High release break.
To Reedy.
Centering it to all the way around to Bettis. And Bettis scores. UCF still fighting, getting on the board, 14-7.
Carleton.
We've seen this a lot of times. We've seen Simon Montague come out to finish games off, but it doesn't look like he's going to be on the field in this one.
Looks like your pretty standard Carleton offensive unit.
Well, with one exception, we see freshman number 4, James Adams, here to help finish this game off. And trying to figure out who he's in. Oh, he's in place of Nick Stewart.
Nick Stewart up and walking under his own power on the sidelines.
Oh, and he's moving both of his arms. So I think he'll be back for semifinals. Yeah, he looks like he's got full control of both of his shoulders.
Carleton, notorious for playing their cards close to the chest. Oh, and a quick update from Tufts in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has broken to win 12-10 in the other quarterfinal. So it looks like all 4 1 seeds are on their way to advancing to the semifinals.
And, you know, kind of in the back of your head, you kind of got the possible finals rematch from last year that we were robbed of due to weather. Carleton versus Wisconsin. I think both teams were much more exciting to watch last year. No offense to the current rosters, but those two teams were fantastic to watch last year. As the Colorado-Wisconsin semifinal was easily the best game of nationals last year.
UCF's pull rolls out of bounds. Looks like Carleton's going to come out in a side stack. Jeremy Norden's going to pick up the disc. Looks like Mike Clark is going to be the first isolation cutter.
Without Nick Stewart out there, it's very interesting to see how this opens up. We have Childs Walker getting the disc first. Out to Schurman. Out to Norden in space. Tight grab. Out to Clark. Norden following it. Clark marked by Nations. There's a pick call.
Carleton 10 yards outside the UCF end zone now. They hold here and the game's over.
Here's Caffrey. Too far for Norden. I wish I had the playmaker shorts.
12-10 Wisco.
Yeah. Do you guys have playmaker shorts on you?
What?
Do you have playmaker shorts
I
on
don't.
you?
And UCF picks up the disc right away, hucks it immediately out of bounds. Not sure if the Carlton defender got a piece of it. Mike Clark, were you able to see that, Griffin?
Yes, I believe number 19, Mike Clark, did get a piece of that, sending it out of bounds.
Norden with a short field to work with. He's looking for Herskew. Centering it to Caffrey, who makes the grab. Out to Childs Walker in space. He's got a receiver wide open. Looks him off. Inside break to Herskew. Herskew typically finished things off. It is 15-7. Carlton wins this one. Thank you for tuning into our coverage. This has been quarterfinals action as Carlton has taken out the UCF Dogs of War 15-7. This has been Zach Smith, Ian Toner, and Griffin Muckley for Skyd Magazine. This is coverage of Division I College Open Nationals presented by Spin Ultimate and USA Ultimate. Thanks for checking in.